What's up, guys? I just got done watching the end of the MLS Cup about half an hour ago. Sounders won, so we have another champion in the town, that's cool. It's better than having a team that isn't a champion in the town. So, shout out to the Sounders. Personally, I think the game was a phenomenal argument against me continuing to watch soccer games. I I know there are probably other soccer games that happened that are a lot better than that one, but it was no goals for 120 minutes. We didn't even have a shot on goal in 120 minutes. I mean, Toronto did, we didn't. And it comes down to penalty kicks, and I'm not a big fan. I wouldn't be a big fan of the NBA if they decided to change the end of their games to come down to a free throw shooting contest. So if you kind of get where I'm going with that, but we won, and that's cool. So another Seattle sports championship. So good on those guys. They're doing the city proud, even if they didn't exactly motivate me to keep watching the sport. So I'm going to talk about a game that I have a little more invested in tomorrow afternoon. Traveling to Green Bay, traveling to Lambeau Field to play a desperate Packers team. They need this one or they're pretty much done. So we need this win, but they need it a lot more than we do. So we're going to get everything they have, I'm sure. So as for this game, 2 weeks ago I said I was really concerned about Tampa Bay, and they beat us. My worst fears were realized in that game. And last week I felt really confident about beating Carolina, and we beat them down pretty good. So this week I don't feel great. I don't. And the Packers have obviously been a very flawed team this year. They've lost a lot of very winnable games. They've lost games to the Colts. They've lost to the Lions. I believe they lost. They're not just losing. They're losing some of these games against teams that aren't even that good. So clearly something is wrong with them. Clearly they're not the Packers that we know of for the last 5-6 years, but this is going to be tricky. You're going into Lambeau Field. The weather's going to be freaking freezing, I'm sure. Everything I've heard indicates it's going to be a very cold game. And, last week when we were playing the Panthers up here, it was cold, but this is going to be worse. It might not be as bad as the Vikings playoff game last year, but it should be pretty cold. And look, it affects both teams, obviously, but Green Bay's just more used to that kind of stuff. Aaron Rodgers has had amazing games in very cold conditions several times in his career. So, for me, that's a big home field advantage that Green Bay is holding on to that we have to work through. And beyond that, no Earl Thomas. Life after Earl, at least for this season. We'll see next year. I'm sure he'll be back next year, but who the hell knows? He's taking it really hard. Yeah, I don't like playing Aaron Rodgers without Earl Thomas. And I know Aaron Rodgers has not had his best season this year. Far from it, but the numbers are still pretty. He's still doing things that a lot of quarterbacks in this league wish they could do. And I don't like playing him without your elite, all-world, all-everything safety. No knock on Steven Terrell, because he's played pretty good when Earl's gone out, for the most part. It hasn't been perfect, but, for me, I'm looking at it and I go, I really wish we had our all-world safety back there when you're playing against a quarterback who's potentially as good as Aaron Rodgers. And that makes me feel like Green Bay's going to score a few points in this game. They're probably not going to run it up on us. The weather's not going to allow for it. Our defense is still very good. We've got our pass rushers back. Green Bay's offense has problems running the ball. At this point, they're probably worse at running the ball than we are. And that's really saying something. But we need our offense to really show up in this game. And I'm on very shaky confidence that that's going to happen. I mean, last week, the offense played great, but the week before, it was non-existent. I said 2 weeks ago that we were missing so many players on defense that we needed our offense to step up and play good, and they didn't show up against Tampa Bay. If we get that tomorrow, we're not going to win this game. Same thing. the ask on the defense tomorrow is going to be very high. We're going to be asking a lot of these guys without one of their best players against a capable NFL offense, a good passing offense, and we need the offense to pick up some slack, and it's tough for me to be overly confident that they're going to be able to do that because you see, some days it doesn't show up. Some days you get the offense that showed up against Arizona, St. Louis, or Tampa, and then you might get the offense that showed up against Carolina and San Francisco and New York. So, yeah, I don't feel great about this one. This seems like a game where things are lining up a little bit against us, and we could drop a low-scoring game. That's kind of how I feel it's going to go. I think it's going to be a fairly low-scoring game, and their offense might be able to outrun our offense. But the matchups on our offense really concern me because our tackles are a dumpster fire right now, relatively speaking. The interior of the offensive line is starting to come together, but when you're talking about Bradley Sowell and, God, Gary Gilliam just got benched, and, God, who the hell is even our other tackle anymore? George Fant, excuse me. And you're matching them up against Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers, and I know those guys aren't having the best seasons they've ever had, but that's not something I want to be dealing with. That is something that makes me feel like this could be a long day at the office for our pass protection. So, run the ball, give it to Thomas Rawls, hope that he can grind out a very productive game like he did last week against the Panthers, and find a way to neutralize that outside pass rush, because I don't like George Fant trying to block Clay Matthews, or I don't like Bradley Sowell trying to block Julius Peppers. That seems like a really, really bad idea. So, if we want to win this game, I want to run the ball a lot. I want to keep the ball in the hands of Thomas Rawls, and we need to see some pass rush this week. Last week we didn't see much pass rush. That was fine. Carolina was doing a lot of max protect. Against Green Bay, Frank Clark, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, it's on you guys. I need to see some serious disruption in the backfield because secondary is down one of their most important pieces, maybe their most important. So, yeah, I'm a little all over the place about this game because I don't really know what we can lean on, what we can expect. So I'll just say run the ball and get after the passer, and I think we'll come out on top if we do those two things. But you never know with this offensive line sometimes. So I'll see you guys after the game, and yeah, welcome MLS champion Seattle Sounders.